want to thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank also my friend Louis Goldman for his friendship over the past years that we have served together in this chamber, and I certainly want to thank him for his support of the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act that was signed into law by President Biden a few months ago. And I want to thank Representative Gomer for his support and for his steadfastness on that bill. Mr. Speaker, it is for the final time that I stand in this well on this floor to commemorate the memory, the legacy of Fred Hampton, my friend and comrade in the Black Panther Party. This last Sunday marked 53 years since Chairman Fred was assassinated by a racist, corrupt Chicago Police Department, which, as a part of the FBI's COINTELPRO program, the FBI's National Counterintelligence Program, which without legal authority and which was in stark violation of the U.S. Constitution, surveilled, harassed, harmed, arrested, and assassinated innocent, ordinary American citizens. My friend Fred Hampton, who was a brilliant young man that I recruited to join the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party, which I had, along with Mr. Bob Brown, organized in 1968. Fred and I fought together, side by side, against police brutality and police murder in Chicago specifically, but across our great nation in general. We set up free community health clinics, free breakfast for children programs, a free busing to prison program to allow families to visit their loved ones who were in prison. Mr. Speaker, we initiated free sickle cell anemia testing programs to educate this nation and to test Black people about this dreaded but often and largely ignored disease. Mr. Speaker, thanks to his charismatic leadership, Fred Hampton was so powerful and so inspirational throughout the city of Chicago and the nation at large. His charisma, his influence extended even to other countries. Chairman Fred was charismatic, courageous, exceptional, and highly committed leader who, at the age of 21, was assassinated while he slept under the influence of drugs that were the drug Seconal that was put in his favorite drink at that time, which was Kool-Aid. It was laced, his Kool-Aid was laced with Seconal. Why? Because Fred Hampton used every fiber of his talent, his immense talent, without hesitancy, to fight for poor people. Poor whites, poor blacks, poor Asians, poor Hispanic people, poor people across the board. His oratorical skills exceeded almost every significant leader of his times. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, he was able to move the masses, not simply and only because of his oratory, but also because of his example. To see Fred, to hear Fred, was to know Fred, to be inspired by Fred. Mr. Speaker, Chicago, my home city, the city I love, was and still is one of the most segregated cities in America. But Chairman Fred understood how to connect across racial and geographic boundaries. He knew how to connect with aspirations, the deep-seated desires of people across racial and geographic lines. He knew how to create alliances and coalitions based around common needs and common desires. We created the original Rainbow Coalition in Chicago. And this coalition was a partnership with the Young Lords and Hispanic organization and the Young Patriots, which was an organization of poor Appalachian whites from the uptown community in Chicago. Mr. Speaker, this amazing, creative, never seen before coalition of poor people was comprised of working class people in our city struggling with the same issues that we all were suffering with, and those issues were police brutality, substandard housing, mediocre education, low quality health care, food, low quality food that was being sold in stores in our neighborhood. Mr. Speaker, these were the programs that Fred Hampton championed. This was the kind of individual that Fred Hampton was. But I stand here today, Mr. Speaker, and say that rather than being saluted for these and similar efforts, the Black Panther Party members, and particularly Chairman Fred, was seen as a threat to those in power. J. Edgar Hoover said that the Black Panther Party was this nation's #1 threat. Why? We're feeding hungry children. We're providing free health care to young children, to poor people who needed it. We are taking loved ones to prison to see their loved ones who were incarcerated. We were speaking truth to power. Is this the reason why Fred Hampton was assassinated? Is this the very reason why the Black Panther Party was being viewed by J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI as the #1 threat to this nation? It just doesn't make sense. Mr. Speaker, J. Edgar Hoover's FBI started a file on Fred and put him on their agitators index, listing him as a key militant leader. And they went so far as to hire a fellow by the name of William O'Neill, a streetwise black criminal and operative, as an FBI agent, as an FBI informant who was assigned to infiltrate the Black Panther Party and to report back to them about our every move, our every activity. And then, Mr. Speaker, on December the 4th, 1969, at about 4 a.m. in the morning, the Chicago Police Department, working in conjunction with the FBI and the Cook County State's Attorney, it would be hand-in-hand, surreptitiously entered into an apartment on at 2337 West Monroe, where Fred Hampton lived, and where other Black Panther Party members were staying. They came with a premeditated plan to murder Fred Hampton. to murder me and any other party member that they found in that apartment. They came armed with machine guns, high-powered pistols, and every other type weapon, intent on killing everyone in that apartment. They came under the guise of executing a search warrant for weapons, but had every intention of murdering Fred Hampton and others in that apartment. They killed Fred. And Mr. Speaker, let me make it real clear. Throughout American history, there has not been anyone other than Fred Hampton that was assassinated under the authority of the U.S. government. Not one. Fred Hampton was the only political assassinated American citizen that was assassinated on the shores of our nation. Fred Hampton, Mark Clark. They came for me, but they missed me, Mr. Speaker. But early the following morning, at about 5 a.m. on December the 5th, they came, the Chicago Police Department tried to kill me again. They came to my apartment with a search warrant for weapons. They shot my door down. But I was not in that apartment. I moved my family out of that apartment just hours before they came on the preceding day. Mr. Speaker, they tried to justify the raid, the murder of Fred Hampton and Mark Clark by saying that it was a shootout. They wanted to justify by placing blame on Fred and the other members of the Black Panther Party. When later it became crystal clear that this was a clear, politically motivated assassination. The grand jury evidence showed that the police had fired 99 times. 99 shots fired into that apartment. And they also said that there were only 2 possibly shots fired by the Panthers in that apartment. Mr. Speaker, let me remind you that this was during the 1960s, a time of deep and necessary awakening in our nation, a time of political protest, a time of cultural confrontation, a time of change in our nation. It was a time when poor, oppressed people took a necessary step forward to end the systemic oppression that they were faced with. African Americans, women, disabled individuals, Mexican American farm workers, Native Americans, anti-war protesters, environmentalists, other activists organized to fight during this time against injustice and for equality and for equity. Most of us view this time, some half century later, as indeed a turning point in American history. A time when the oppressed population in our nation finally had and took the opportunity to speak up and create positive change for themselves and by themselves. Mr. Speaker, however, J. Edgar Hoover didn't like what he saw. He didn't like what was going on in our nation. J. Edgar Hoover determined that anyone who had the audacity to stand up and challenge the oppressive status quo, that they were a threat to who? We were American citizens. We loved our nation. We were a threat to him and his consorts, him and those who wanted to oppress for racial and other reasons poor people. Mr. Speaker, in 1956, J. Edgar Hoover created and designed a program within the Federal Bureau of Investigation called COINTELPRO. COINTELPRO, which was an acronym for the Counterintelligence Program of the FBI. This program was a calculated strategic effort to discredit, dismantle, defeat, neutralize all the efforts for societal change, for societal reform, for our right to constitutionally redress our agreements against the oppression and subjugation and discrimination and biases that we were forced to live under. This COINTEL program illegally, outside of the law, spied and harassed American citizens, going so far as to tap telephone lines, plant false and damaging stories in the national and local press, falsely imprison people, falsely charging people, and even assassinating American citizens, activists in their time. J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI famously targeted Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his family, who was sought to discredit Dr. King and to undermine his civil rights work by painting him as a communist. It was after Dr. King made his iconic "I Have a Dream" speech and the inspiration that it created from people from all backgrounds from across the nation, that J. Edgar Hoover and his FBI came to view Dr. King as a dangerous person. They began a massive surveillance campaign against Dr. King. They tried to prove that Dr. King was a communist. They failed to produce not one scintilla of evidence of this, but they still habitually harassed Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. In 1964, the FBI sent what is known as, quote, their quote, the suicide letter. The letter urged Dr. King to commit suicide by calling him a fraud and citing alleged extramarital affairs. This dastardly, low-life letter was sent to Dr. King's home, where it was opened by his wife, Comrade. Mr. Speaker, this was a calculated, sinister, and deeply personal attempt by the FBI that was designed to bring shame and harm to Dr. King and his family. This was outside of everything that this nation stands for, outside of the law. And Mr. Speaker, they were using taxpayers' dollars in order to do these and other dastardly things, using this COINTELPRO program as their vehicle. But they didn't stop with Dr. King. There are other well-known targets for this COINTELPRO program, including Aretha Franklin, Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, Billie Holiday, Marilyn Monroe, Jane Fonda, Gene Seberg, John Lennon, Yoko Ono, even the 60s pop band, the Monkees. They were also victims of COINTELPRO. Hoover, J. Edgar Hoover, had already started spying on people like Charlie Chaplin and Ernest Hemingway, well before this COINTELPRO program was finalized and set up and operationalized. This COINTELPRO program targeted everyday people, not just luminaries, but everyday ordinary American citizens. Anyone that had the audacity to voice agreements against discrimination. They even targeted housewives. The housewives who attended the meetings for the National Organization of Women's chapter meeting. Mr. Speaker, I've introduced the COINTELPRO Full Disclosure Act, H.R. 2998.
Byron.
And I ask that the members of this Congress sign on to this bill. I thank you, and I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields back. Under the Speaker's announced policy of January 4th,